Governments in Canada and across Europe have recently adopted a position that mirrors a core demand from Tehran. Any ceasefire in the region must extend to include Lebanon. It's a striking diplomatic alignment, especially since Iran asserts this influence when its traditional sources of strength have been largely dismantled. In the south, Hamas has been shattered as a functional military organization. To the north, Hezbollah, once the most formidable wing of Iran's proxy network, has seen its leadership and ground forces severely degraded. Perhaps most significantly, the total collapse of the Assad government in Syria has removed the vital land bridge connecting Tehran to the Mediterranean. Even the state's internal defenses are compromised. During the 12-day war, Iran's nuclear infrastructure sustained heavy damage, leaving the program in a state of disrepair. With its proxies neutralized and its nuclear facilities damaged, Tehran's ability to move Western diplomacy suggests it is using a different, more durable form of leverage. Since the 1979 revolution, Iran has operated primarily as an ideological entity, with a foreign policy defined by the export of its revolutionary values. This manifested in the Axis of Resistance, a network of allies designed to facilitate a strategy known as forward defense. The goal was to keep conflict away from Iranian soil by fighting asymmetrical wars through non-state groups across the Middle East. This chart shows how that proxy influence was paired with a second layer of deterrence, the methodical, incremental increase in uranium enrichment. However, the recent series of wars acted as a high-pressure test for the system, exposing the hard limits of a strategy built on ideology and proxy forces. Most of Iran's remaining conventional strength is now concentrated in its ballistic missile and drone programs, which survived the recent conflicts largely intact. The destruction of the proxy network has stripped away Iran's ideological shield, forcing the state to abandon its idealistic ambitions in favor of a colder, more calculated realism. This shift has led Tehran to look inward, using the physical features of its own territory as its primary strategic tool. This map identifies the Strait of Hormuz. In the current strategic landscape, this single geographic choke point has become more important to Iran's survival than its nuclear program. Roughly 1/5 of the world's total oil consumption passes through this narrow passage. Any disruption here creates immediate, cascading shocks to the global economy. Military strikes can take out a drone factory or a command center, but the physical terrain of a coastline is effectively permanent and indestructible. For Western powers, the risk of an escalation that shuts down the strait and collapses global energy markets outweighs the cost of diplomatic concessions. This economic reality is what connects Iran's geographic position to the current negotiations over Lebanon. Unlike proxy armies, which can be defeated, geography functions as a permanent deterrent that cannot be bombed out of existence. The Iran that remains after these wars is transitioning into a more militarized and deeply pragmatic state. The previous era of the ideological crusade has been replaced by a doctrine of strict territorial defense. The current regional alignment highlights a basic fact of international power. Your position on the map is your most fundamental asset. Alliances and proxy leaders are temporary, shifting with the political tides. The physical features of the Earth, however, do not change. Tehran's transition proves that terrain is more resilient than any political ideal, acting as the permanent hand that guides the logic of global realism.